The sun slowly sank over Cebu City, casting a warm, golden light across the rusted tin roofs and narrow, crowded alleys where laughter mixed with struggle. In one of those alleys walked Miguel, a thin 12-year-old boy with messy black hair and eyes full of untold dreams. His bare feet moved carefully on the rough pavement, and in his small hands, he carried an old, cracked guitar that once belonged to his late father. The strings were uneven, the wood scarred, but to Miguel, it was the most precious thing in the world, a reminder of the man who used to sing by the ocean, under the same golden sunset. Miguel's home was a tiny wooden hut near the fish market, where his mother sold vegetables and dried fish every morning. Their days were long, their meals often uncertain, but every evening, Miguel would sit outside their door and play softly on his guitar, his mother smiling weakly while stirring rice in a small pot. "Someday, Anik," she would whisper, "your music will take you far from here." Those words became his heartbeat, a promise he kept close. One morning, while helping his mother pack vegetables, Miguel saw a small poster taped to a lamppost, "Ireland's Got Talent, Philippines Auditions, Manila." His heart skipped. He read it again and again, the words glowing like hope. He didn't know where Manila was exactly, but he knew one thing, it was his chance. That night, after his mother fell asleep, Miguel took his guitar, wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, and quietly stepped into the dim streetlights. He walked for hours, then caught a bus with the few coins he had saved from street performances. The journey was long and harsh. He slept at bus terminals, sang for strangers to earn food, and played by sidewalks where no one noticed him. But each time he strummed the guitar, his father's spirit seemed to guide him forward. When Miguel finally arrived in Manila, his clothes were dusty, his feet sore, but his eyes, still shining, looked up at the massive audition hall where bright banners read "Ireland's Got Talent, live auditions today." Inside, the crowd buzzed with excitement, families, singers, dancers, and dreamers in fancy clothes. Miguel felt small among them. Some contestants laughed at his worn-out shirt and taped-up guitar. One whispered, "He looks like he came from the streets." Miguel heard it but didn't react. He just held his guitar tighter and waited silently for his turn. When his number was finally called, he stepped onto the grand stage. The lights were blinding, the audience enormous. His hands trembled as he stood before the judges, Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, and Aisling Byrne, their faces sharp under the spotlights. The crowd murmured, some even giggled softly. Simon tilted his head, noticing the boy's fear. Miguel's voice quivered as he introduced himself, "My name is Miguel, from Cebu City." Simon nodded gently, "What are you going to sing, Miguel?" The boy took a deep breath. "Hotel California, for my papa." The room fell silent. Miguel closed his eyes, placed his fingers on the strings, and began to play. The first chord shimmered through the hall, raw, imperfect, but heartbreakingly real. His voice, fragile yet powerful, filled the space like sunlight piercing through storm clouds. Every note carried the sound of the sea, of hunger, of hope, of a father's memory. By the second verse, the laughter had stopped. The judges leaned forward. The crowd stared, moved by the soul in his trembling voice. In that moment, Miguel wasn't a poor boy anymore, he was a star, glowing in the light of his own courage. As Miguel's trembling fingers continued to strum the chords of Hotel California, the Grand Theater seemed to hold its breath. The murmurs that once filled the hall vanished into complete silence. Every sound, every note, every syllable of Miguel's voice carried something deeper than music. It carried pain, loss, and the unbreakable spirit of a boy who had known struggle from birth. His voice was not polished like a professional singer's, but it was honest, and that honesty struck everyone in the heart like a soft storm. The camera zoomed in on Miguel's face, eyes closed, tears glistening under the bright white stage lights. His voice cracked slightly as he sang, but that imperfection made it even more beautiful. The judges sat still, captivated. Amanda Holden's lips trembled as she tried to hold back her emotions, while Aisling Byrne, known for her gentle heart, pressed her hand to her chest. Even Simon Cowell, the man famous for his tough exterior and sharp criticism, leaned forward, his usually calm eyes softening with something rare, admiration. Miguel poured every drop of his soul into the song. When he reached the chorus, "Welcome to the Hotel California," his voice soared, pure and powerful, filling the massive theater with emotion. The crowd was hypnotized. Some in the front rows wiped their eyes, others simply stood frozen, unable to move. Even the crew behind the cameras were crying quietly, forgetting for a moment that they were filming. The song reached its final verse, and Miguel strummed the strings slowly, tenderly, as if he were whispering a goodbye. His voice faded on the line, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave." The hall went utterly still. Not a single clap, not a breath, just silence so deep it felt sacred. Then, suddenly, a woman in the back row began to clap. 1. Then 2. Then the entire crowd erupted into thunderous applause. The sound rolled like a wave through the hall, echoing off the walls. The audience rose to their feet, cheering wildly, their cheers mixing with tears. "Miguel! Miguel!" they chanted, their voices full of love and awe. Amanda wiped her cheeks and stood up. "Miguel," she said, her voice breaking, "you just reminded us why we love music. It's not about fame, it's about feeling." Aisling nodded, unable to speak, her eyes red with emotion. Then Simon stood slowly, his expression unreadable for a moment, before he spoke softly into his microphone. "That," he paused, swallowing hard, "was one of the most moving performances I've ever heard. You didn't just sing Hotel California, you became it. Every word, every note came from your heart. You made us all feel what you've lived through." Miguel, overwhelmed, could barely lift his head. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, "It was for my papa." The audience gasped, and a few cried louder. Simon smiled gently, his voice low but full of warmth. "Your papa would be proud of you, Miguel. So proud."